What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing
What up?
today?
What up?
Good, good.
Good.
Good. Had some Mexican food earlier. Feeling full.
Dude, Mexican food is the best. So today on the episode, we have a very special guest, Mr. Kevin Pryor. How you doing?
Thank you. Good. How are you?
Doing amazing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what you've done throughout your career?
Yeah, well, currently I work for the government, which is completely different from what I do.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I can't even really talk about that, but the stuff I talk about is the movie stuff,
Right.
cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I back in high school, my senior year of high school, I got into acting.
Okay.
And I was interested in it, but I didn't know if I could do it for a job. And then I went out to film school after I graduated my undergrad and went to film school and then got into being a background actor and was doing that. I was testing video games out there and I lived out there for 6 or 7 years. But
okay.
That's
awesome.
the stuff I like talking about on TikTok.
So what was probably your first background acting role that you would consider like major, do you think, or like your first like most important one to you personally?
Well, I don't know if, I mean, there are a couple. The first one that got me into it, I wouldn't have really known that I could do it. It was Little Nicky.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was just
Classic.
one of my classmates, my film school classmates said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to this thing there. You're not getting paid, but you can be in the background of this basketball scene in an Adam Sandler movie."
That's awesome.
What? Just regular people can do that? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I want to do that.
So
yeah, we went, and then we're sitting in the crowd, and I mean, it was fun. But then we started talking to some girls, and they were telling us that they were getting paid to be there. And now I've got to pursue this. I mean, if I can get paid to be in the background of movies, I want to do this. So that's how I got started. I got signed up at Central Casting in LA. And and all the projects that I did, I mean, I did so many, all the movies I did, most of them are ones that are, you know, people remember them. There are a couple that weren't, but probably my biggest, the one that people like to talk about the most is probably Princess Diaries.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Where you're sitting in the desk behind, was it Anne Hathaway?
Yes. Yeah, Mandy Moore and
okay. You were not.
That's probably the big one.
No, you were in 1 and 2, weren't you?
Yes.
Like didn't they give your character like some sort of like backstory kind of, or like some sort of like development or whatever in the back somewhat?
I did that myself.
Okay. Gotcha.
But so I mean, it was just a fluke. When I tried out, so for Princess Diaries, the first one, I had actually that day, I remember it was a Saturday, and usually they didn't do any castings during the weekend, but they had something at Sony Studios where they were looking for skinny people to be in the Planet of the Apes movie, the Tim Burton one.
Oh, wow. So we were just talking about that earlier. That's
really?
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went with one of my film school buddies. We were both really skinny at the time. We thought, we're going to be shooing for this. And they were going to narrow people down. There were hundreds of people there. And then the last group was going to be seen by Tim Burton. He was going to round and select people. And we got kicked out of the first round. We got kicked out. I went back to my apartment and I was frustrated, but I thought, I'll call the call-in line to see if because sometimes they'd have something on the weekend, like they'd leave on from Friday. And Princess Diaries was on there. I was like, oh, a movie? That sounds pretty cool. So I called in, and usually it was like calling into a radio show where it could take like half hour just to get through to the casting agent. But I got through right away, and they booked me, and that's how I got on Princess Diaries.
Awesome.
So if I had gotten on Planet of the Apes, I wouldn't have gotten Princess Diaries.
Well, that's awesome. At least you had something come up for you.
One
Yeah.
rejection
Yeah.
led to an acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to a close to nothing door.
Do you want to
Yeah,
talk about the similarities between the two movies and how
Well,
they might
yes.
how they might have differed?
Yeah. Well, and when I did that, they didn't know if there was going to be a Princess Diaries too, but then
Right.
they were casting for that one, and they didn't call me. I called in for that one, and I got that right away too. But I was booked as a wedding guest, or I thought I was. And then I showed up to the fitting. So you go in for a fitting on a Friday, and then it was working Monday through Friday the next week.
Mhm.
And they start fitting me in a tux. I'm like, I don't know if this is right. Because they had my voucher, and like, well, you're one of the groomsmen. So I was getting all excited because I thought I was going to be featured in the movie. I mean, I wasn't really, but yeah. So I was one of the groomsmen in the
Wow.
second one.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Wow. Oh, so you were up on the whatever stage thing or
Yeah.
walking down the aisle and stuff.
Yeah.
One of the first things we shot was us walking down the aisle. So, I mean, because I have some social anxiety, but there are hundreds of people on each side. And then I'm walking down, and Anne Hathaway's there, Julie Andrews there, Chris Pine's right there.
Jeez.
And I'm like trying to look straight. It was really nerve-wracking, but
That's a lot of big
Yeah.
faces.
Yeah.
yeah. John Rice Davies.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of names in that crowd. So it was really nerve-wracking. But then for us groomsmen, they only used us for 2 days of the 5 days.
Okay.
And the rest was like shots of the guests. So we were sitting and holding for like 10, 11, 12 hours, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, just hanging out.
Wow.
And
Okay.
they didn't use us once, any of those days. But you can see me for a couple seconds in the movie.
That's the one thing about doing like background work is like sometimes you might completely get cut out from
Yes.
everything. Yeah. I've heard that a lot from a couple different, background extras and stuff like that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Nigel cuts me out of the podcast sometimes. He likes to do that. Like if I don't say anything important, he'll just cut me right out.
You're axed.
You were also in a video game, I believe. How was that like Medal of Honor? Did you play it?
Oh yeah,
Did
I
you
worked
actually
on
like the game?
Well, I was just the tester on that one. So that was the first. I worked at a couple different video game companies, and I think that was the last one. EA was the last one, and so I got there, and they were already in development of that, so I got in about halfway through. But yeah, the funny thing with testing video games, a lot of people think it's just you're playing video games all day long, which I mean, you have the video game and you're going through it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's oh boy, you get sick of that game really quick if it's a bad, especially if it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that was a good game. That was a fun game. I remember there were people that knew it so well because it's kind of on the rails. But there were people that could close their eyes and play through the game.
Yeah.
And they close their eyes and just play through, and they could get through the whole level.
That's crazy.
Jeez.
I heard you.
That's how much you're going through it.
I heard you play tested for Jack 2 as well for Naughty Dog.
Yes. Yeah. I just reposted that story. Was that last night?
I think that's a video I saw earlier.
Yeah. So that was probably one of the best games that I worked on, and I only worked on that for 5 weeks. I came in right at the end. So everybody had kind of worked together and they all knew each other. And I just came in, and I mean, we were going they were really long hours. Yeah. And if you saw the video, I mean, that 1 week I worked 90 hours in 1 week, which I didn't know was possible. I didn't.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Cow.
I didn't know there were 90 hours in a week.
That reminds me of, I forget which game it was, but they got in big trouble like a year or two ago for like making their testers like stay over and like their developers stay over, and the people were like sleeping in the office and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and there were times where I was like, I might as well just sleep here
Oh
because I
yeah.
go home,
Jeez.
I go to sleep, and then I wake up, and then I come here.
Mhm.
And in LA traffic, depending on where you're coming from,
Right.
I
Yeah.
remember, I think it was EA. I was living in Brea, California, and they were in Playa Vista. And I had to go on the 405. If you know LA at all, it's really busy. But it was a 2-hour drive there and a 2-hour drive back.
Oh, okay.
And if you're working a 12-hour day,
Yeah,
that
for
doesn't
real.
leave much time for sleeping.
Right. Yeah.
A
Man.
pretty big commute.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Shoot.
got tiresome pretty
At
fast.
least it's a pleasant view, right? No cars,
Yeah.
no fumes.
Yeah.
They give you gas money?
No, they
Yeah.
did not. Not for
Jeez.
Oh,
that
wow.
one.
Yeah, did
Sometimes they would for extra work, depending on where it was.
Cool.
you get
That's
paid
nice.
for the game testing, or was that more just like a thing you could do?
Yeah. So that was a long time ago. So at the time, gosh, I want to say minimum wage was only like $7 or $8 an hour, but
Mhm.
I was making like 12 or 13 an hour. So it was definitely
Wow.
That's not
more
bad,
than
yeah.
minimum wage.
That's not terrible.
But
Pretty good.
yeah,
Play testing.
yeah. So
Mhm.
40 to 50 hours, it was time and a half. And then, from 50 to 90, I was making double time all those hours.
Jeez.
So that was pretty good.
Yeah, that,
So you said Jack 2 is probably your favorite game that you worked on. What's probably your least favorite game that you worked on?
Well, yeah, it definitely. I liked working there. It was the first place I worked. It was THQ
Mhm.
because they taught me how to test games, like what you look for, and I carried that over into the other jobs. But the games that I tested, the first one was SpongeBob SquarePants Employee of the Month,
Okay.
and
oh,
I'm going to repost that video too, where I talk about that. But yeah, I remember like getting put on that team, and it was me and another guy to start. It was me and another guy and our team lead. And our team lead gave us the build, and we put it in the computer, and he's like, okay, play through it. And it took me 2 hours to beat it.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? He's like, well, you better get used to it because you're going to be playing that 40 hours a week for the next 4 weeks or so.
oh my goodness.
So yeah, I went through it over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And we got some more people on the team towards the end, but yeah, it was mostly just two of us looking at it. And it got to the
Jeez.
point where, I was seriously having nightmares. I would drive home on the freeway. I would see SpongeBob on the side of the freeway. I was hallucinating. I was,
Yeah.
it was crazy. It was, yeah, I've never dealt with anything like that.
That's
But yeah, that
funny.
was rough.
Wow.
Probably
was
pretty
really-
brain frying playing a 2-hour game 40
Yeah.
hours a week.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I'd be curious what it's like now because games are so much longer and more detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the early 2000s,
Mhm.
around the time of like PS2.
Yeah.
Yeah, graphics weren't as good,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that was
yeah,
the
you got
disc
to.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and another thing that came up in the comments was those were the days when the game had to be perfect when they sent
Mhm.
it out.
Yeah.
Not like today where they send out
updates.
the
Yeah.
game and it's a mess, and
Gotta
then they
Out of
fix
service.
it,
3
and
times. Yeah.
yeah.
That as well as like the early PS2 era was still that phase of games where you could beat them quickly, kind of. And then like
Yeah.
towards the end of it, it started like it was kind of like a transitional phase, like throughout its lifespan, where the games got longer and longer and longer, and then yeah, like
Well, Jack 2 was like, gosh, that was at least 20 hours, I
oh
think.
yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, Jack 2's pretty big for its time, man.
Yeah.
So what was the process for testing a game that's that long? Are you playing it 20 hours through and making notes on that, or are you playing, an hour or two and for this segment and
Well, so for that one, since I was coming in so late in the game, they didn't want me to play it the whole way through. Because they knew that I had some experience. So the build they gave me, you could go around to certain levels. So I just, they would
Okay.
say, check this, check that.
So they like sanctioned it off into like, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah, because
custom
the game was
test.
already in a good state when I
Okay.
got it. But one of the things that I did catch like a what do they call it? It's a crash, basically, is
Mhm.
when and it was, I can't remember the name of what we used to call it, but when you find one, when it crashes 100% of the time,
Mhm.
then it's something they have to fix.
Right.
Oh, like a
Yes.
game breaking bug is.
Mhm.
Yes, game breaking.
Just-
Yeah, well, I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
why. Yeah, game breaking bug. Yeah, so I found one. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, one of those during the 90-hour week.
Oh wow.
And it was one of the bosses.
Dang.
And you do something, you do a certain thing, and
Mhm.
then it would crash 100% of the time. So then you reset
Okay.
the to the part that you were playing, and you do it again, and sure
Yeah.
enough, it crashed.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of cool finding that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, when I was playing that game or going through it and testing it, it was in a pretty good state by that point.
Okay.
Nice. Did you ever have any game breaking bugs with the SpongeBob one?
No,
Yeah, seems like that would
SpongeBob
have
was
caused like a psychotic break or something. That'd have been a game breaking bug for you.
well, SpongeBob was funny because most of the stuff that we were, because it's a kids game, so most of the stuff that we were finding, we'd be writing up all the sexual innuendo that they were trying to sneak into the game,
Yeah.
and there was
Yeah.
a lot of it. And I know there had to have been something that snuck through,
Uh-huh.
or stuff that they just stopped fixing it.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we found some pretty funny. I mean, we thought it was funny, but
Yeah.
and that was
Big
mostly what
SpongeBob
we were
fan.
finding.
Do you have any like that you remember that specifically stood out to you?
Nothing that I specifically remember. I know there was a lot of humping. The characters would just would
Oh
be
my
in
gosh.
certain positions, and oh look, surprise!
That's hilarious. Dude,
That was one of the main ones.
that's amazing.
Yes.
The one line from the show that popped into my head when you said, sexual innuendos and stuff is just the one line where SpongeBob says Patrick Hugh Genius is showing, and he goes, "Where?" and he like covers his
Yeah.
his like pants.
Mhm.
And that actually got in the show, which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
The
A
panty
lot of
raid
kids
episode.
actually weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
The panty raid episode isn't on streaming anymore. They don't air it on TV
Oh, yeah.
anymore.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those shows where if the parents were watching, they could get something out of it too.
Yeah, for
oh
sure.
yeah, oh yeah.
I love that. I've always loved stuff like that. And I can't stand when parents worry about stuff like that as if the kids will pick up on certain things, like things that they definitely would not pick up on.
Yeah.
No.
Like, don't deprive your child of an amazing experience.
Yes.
Especially because when we see that stuff as kids, we don't really pick up on it, and
Yeah.
then it's all the better when we look back on it and
Mhm.
we watch that show
Yeah,
when we're
It's
adults,
twice as amazing.
and we're like, wait, how did I not
Yeah.
realize that's what they were saying when I was
Yeah.
12?
Yeah, because you liked it for a different reason, and now
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
can like it for another
Exactly.
reason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that game was tough. And then the other one that I worked 3 games at THQ, but the other one was pretty bad too, and that was Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
Oh,
I didn't know they
wow.
had a game for that. That's
Oh
hilarious.
wow.
That
I
was
didn't
rough.
either.
Oh man.
That was
Dang.
running around, the horse running around, collecting apples.
Jeez.
That was about it. I mean, that's pretty
Wow.
much what you did.
Yeah.
So that was based off a movie, right? That was
Yeah.
like an old cartoon movie. Okay.
Mm.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can remember which one that was. Was that the one where like it's like a wild horse that like
Mhm.
meets a bunch of other wild horses or something?
It's like he meets a girl or something, like a little girl, I want to say, or something like that.
Yeah.
They have a new Netflix series of it.
That's
They, like,
right.
brought
Yeah,
it
I saw
back or
that.
something. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. What a weird series to revive. What an
I know.
odd series to revive. Now that I think about that, it's
Yeah.
such a like weird.
But that's exactly what I thought when I saw that
Yeah.
it was being revived, because it's not one that I don't think a lot of people are
Yeah.
clamoring for
You
that.
never see people talking about it. Like
I've
ever
never even
before.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Jeez.
But yeah, I tested SpongeBob, Spirit, Hot Wheels Velocity X, and then I started
Okay.
on WWE, or was it WWF at the time? Shut Your Mouth. I think that's
Shut your
what the name
mouth.
of
This
it
might have
was.
been WWF.
Yeah, but I wasn't on that for very long.
Hmm.
That was the one and only time that I've ever been fired from a job. They
Oh,
told
wow.
us
Oh,
that,
really?
yeah, they said like 70% of us were going to lose our jobs at a certain point. And so every
Oh, so
Friday, all of us
not
are like,
specifically you. They weren't like you didn't
right,
do anything
yeah.
wrong. Okay.
No, I didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, they told us, they're going to start getting rid of people. And so every Friday they'd pull people in. And I remember the one Friday I had been working on that game maybe a couple weeks. And I should have known because my team lead from SpongeBob took me out to eat a couple days before that, and was asking me what I was going to do if anything happened. And yeah, sure enough, they are like, "Hey, Kevin, can I see you for a minute?" And then I went in, and it was the head of HR, and they sat me down like, "Okay, well, I'm sorry to inform you that you're being let go. You have 5 minutes to collect your belongings and vacate the premises."
5
Wow.
minutes.
Like, oh,
Wow.
okay, well,
Yeah.
thanks.
A little quick.
And you said
Yeah,
shut your mouth. And you grabbed the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that game,
WWE.
on that game, I just started because they have all the different clothing. It was really tedious. I had just been testing, like putting on each individual piece of clothing on some of the wrestlers to see if anything happened, and
Mm.
yeah, I wasn't really finding anything, but yeah, it was really tedious.
Oh gosh.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, shut your mouth is like a bigger game. Low-key.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Customization
But-
in old WWE games was wild.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
yeah, that was THQ.
I think we can move along into our AI segment if you guys would like to do that real quick.
Yeah.
Pop
Sure.
it in
Let's
the
do
middle
it.
here.
All
Ow,
right.
now, brown cow.
Red leather,
Unique
yellow
New
leather.
York. Unique New York.
SpongeBob Employee of the Month. Okay. All right, ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interior, Wayne Enterprises, next morning. Oh wait, so this is carrying over from our other
Yes. This is from our
Batman
last
Sylvester
Batman.
interaction.
Yeah.
So this is coming like chapter 2.
It's a sequel.
All right. Bruce Wayne heads to work at Wayne Enterprises, where he's greeted by a flurry of activity and a packed board meeting. The executives are discussing the latest developments in the company's tech division, when suddenly an explosion rocks the building. Everyone panics, rushing to find a way out. Bruce, however, stares out the window, his expression hardening with determination. Cut to interior Wayne Manor, moments later. Bruce, now in the Batcave, quickly dons his Batman suit and activates his communication system.
Alfred, I need to find out what just exploded near Wayne Enterprises. And I need to know if there's any connection to last night's events with Sylvester Stallone.
Of course, Master Bruce. I'll get right on it.
Batman jumps into the Batmobile and speeds off towards the site of the explosion. As he arrives, he sees chaos and destruction all around.
This wasn't an accident. Someone did this on purpose.
Just then, Batman catches sight of a figure moving in the shadows. He quickly follows, pursuing them through the dark alleyways of Gotham.
Oh God.
Cut to interior abandoned warehouse. Batman finally catches up to the figure, who turns out to be none other than Sylvester Stallone. He is holding a detonator and grinning maliciously. Well, look who decided to join the party.
What are you doing, Sylvester?
Isn't it obvious? I'm finally taking control of the city, and you, Batman, are powerless to stop me. Batman moves to disarm the detonator, but Sylvester pulls out a hidden weapon and lunges at him. The two engage in a brutal fight, with Sylvester proving to be surprisingly skilled in combat. Just when it seems like Batman is gaining the upper hand, Sylvester pulls out a canister of fear toxin and sprays it directly in Batman's
Oh
face.
my God. You won't get away.
Batman collapses to the ground, completely overcome by the toxin. Oh, I already have, Batman. I already have. Batman's mind is in turmoil as he struggles to make sense of what is happening. He feels like he's losing control, and the memories of his parents only add to his confusion and frustration. In his mind, he sees his parents discussing his behavior with a therapist, who turns out to be none other than Sylvester Stallone in a therapist's outfit. The image is both unsettling and ridiculous, and Batman can't help but feel like he's trapped in a never-ending nightmare. Suddenly, he snaps out of this reverie, his senses on high alert. He looks around him, trying to determine where Sylvester has gone. He knows he needs to find him and put an end to this madness before it's too late. As he continues his search, he suddenly hears Sylvester's voice echoing through the warehouse.
2 legs have I, but they only touch the ground when I'm not upright. What am I?
Batman knows that this Sylvester's way of taunting him, and he's determined not to fall for his tricks. He takes a deep breath and focuses his mind. Interior Gotham City night. Batman stumbles out of the warehouse, his mind racing with the riddle Sylvester Stallone has taunted him with. He knows he needs help, and he knows just the person to turn to. The Riddler. Cut to interior Riddler's hideout night. Batman bursts into the Riddler's lair, startling the villain, who was deep in thought, scribbling on a notepad.
What's the meaning of this, Batman? You can't just barge in here like that.
I need your help, Riddler. Sylvester Stallone has got me trapped in one of his twisted mind games, and I can't figure out the answer to his riddle.
The Riddler's expression darkens at the mention of Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone? That copycat. He's always stealing my shtick and everyone else's.
Batman looks at the Riddler expectantly.
Can you help me or not?
Of course I can help you, Batman. But first, let's talk strategy.
The Riddler grabs his notepad and begins to sketch out a plan.
We need to think outside the box with this one. Sylvester's riddles are always meant to trick and deceive. We need to anticipate the next move and stay one step ahead.
But how do we do that?
We'll need to study his patterns, his previous riddles, his tactics, and most importantly, we need to get inside his head.
Batman nods in agreement, and the two begin to strategize. Cut to interior abandoned warehouse, night. Sylvester Stallone is sitting in a dark corner of the warehouse, laughing to himself.
Oh, Batman's in for a real treat this time. He'll never solve my riddle. Never!
Suddenly the door to the warehouse bursts open, and Batman and the Riddler stride in, looking confident.
Hello, Sylvester. We've come to solve your little riddle.
Sylvester's expression darkens.
Do you think you can outsmart me? Ha! You're both fools.
Just give us the answer, Sylvester. We don't have any time for your games.
But that's all they are, Batman. Games. And you're both playing right into my hands.
The Riddler steps forward, a sly smile on his face.
We'll see about that. The answer to your riddle is a wheelbarrow. Thought you had us, didn't you, Sly?
The two begin to exchange riddles, each one more complex than the last. Finally, after what seems like hours before Sly Stallone seems as if he's reached his peak, Sylvester throws out a last riddle, as if to throw them for a loop.
You thought you had me. But you weren't prepared for this one. How many teeth?
Oh, wait. I wasn't prepared for it either.
You thought you had me, but you weren't prepared for this one. What has many teeth, but can't bite?
Batman's expression turns to one of surprising realization, before quickly blurting out the answer.
A comb.
Sylvester grunts angrily, and his expression turns to one of shock and rage.
How did you? No matter. I'll get you next time, Batman. Mark my words.
Sylvester disappears into the darkness. The Riddler quickly chases after him in frustration.
Hey, you can't jack my style and get away with it.
Interior Batcave night. Batman returns to the Batcave, exhausted and frustrated. He flips on the news, which is broadcasting a live feed of a burning building.
We're getting reports of another explosion downtown. The bomber only left behind an insignia.
Batman's eyes widen as the camera pans to the insignia, a stylized letter S, surrounded by a circle.
What is Stallone up to?
He starts analyzing the symbol on his computer, looking for any clues.
This symbol. It's familiar. I've seen it before.
He pulls up old case files and photos, searching for any connection.
Wait a minute. This symbol was on a shipment of weapons that was intercepted by the GCPD last year, and that shipment was traced back to the Riddler.
Batman's mind races with possibilities. Could Sylvester Stallone be working with the Riddler? Or is he simply copying his style?
Alfred, contact the GCPD. I need all access to... Alfred, contact the GCPD. I need access to all their files on the Riddler.
Alfred nods and starts typing away on his computer.
Right away, sir.
Batman leans back in his chair, determined to solve this puzzle once and for all. And
crash. Everybody, good job.
That was a hectic
That was a
one.
good one.
Thank you for participating, Kevin. I really appreciate that.
I had to try the Jim Carrey Riddler version.
That was really good. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Spot
that's
on.
great.
I seem to, speaking of Stallone, I seem to remember you had a story about Sylvester Stallone coming onto a set you were on or something, or somebody getting angry, or what was
Yeah,
it?
do you want me to tell that story?
Yeah.
Okay, so I worked on Rocky Balboa,
Mhm.
and we were all sitting there. I think they had already shot the scene in Vegas where, it's every Rocky movie has, a certain format, and it's the scene where, who's the guy? Antonio Tarver it's him and Rocky at the press conference before the fight.
Mhm.
And so they were just shooting the back of us, basically. But we were there. We were at this hotel in LA, and they were setting up the shot. And we were all just kind of sitting there. And it had been an hour. We're just talking. Well, then finally Stallone comes walking in. And most of us got quiet, but there were still some extras talking. And like I'm sitting towards the front. And Stallone walks in. He's kind of, eyeing up the shot. And he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. And some extras were still talking, so he kept kind of looking back. And because he's right in front of me,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh God, I don't want to get this guy mad." And he just kept giving these looks, and these extras would not stop talking. And it was just a little group of them in the back, and he kept looking back. And then finally, he was talking to the DP, and then he heard these guys talking. He whips his head around. He's like, "Shut up!" And you could hear a pin drop in that place. I mean, everybody was quiet, and then we just all went to work right after that. And he turned up his shot, and
Wow.
yeah, it was it was pretty cool to be on that set. I mean, I grew up watching the Rocky movies.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
But
had to be
yeah, Paulie was there, and
big. Dude, that would have been awesome.
Kurt Young.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, so
That's
yeah, that was
legendary.
another cool one. That was fun. I think I have a
Wow.
story from every single project that I worked on.
Is there like a celebrity that you saw where you were like actually starstruck? What's the most celebrity, I should say, that when you met you were very starstruck? You couldn't like talk.
Well, the person that I was starstruck that I didn't get to meet was Jim Carrey when I worked on The Majestic. I didn't get to talk to him. But
Yeah.
like as far as that's a good question. Like who I was really starstruck with, because once you start doing it, you get used to seeing these celebrities every single day.
Mm.
It's weird because I remember the first one that I got paid for was Third Rock from the Sun, and like seeing John Lithgow, and
That's
like,
a
wow,
great show. I love Third Rock from the Sun.
yeah, it was just so cool to see these people up close and personal, and see them work it, like sitting there watching them work.
Mhm.
And you're in the scene with them.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, I guess probably like Steven Spielberg, maybe. would
Ooh,
be the
yeah,
one
that'd be a
Oh,
big
yeah.
one.
where I was just so sorry. Yeah. So with Spielberg, that was the time that I realized that just how crazy it was, because it was on Catch Me If You Can. It was the first time I worked
Okay,
on a Spielberg movie,
that's a good
Oh,
one.
nice.
and it was one of the school scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'm just standing there in front of some lockers, and Spielberg and DiCaprio are like 5 feet away from me, and they're talking about the scene, and I remember just thinking, what is, I am here on a Steven Spielberg set
Yeah.
watching him direct a movie.
Yeah, that's gotta be wild, man.
It was so insane, like how, like, so many years before, I never could have dreamed that I would ever get to be like watch a movie get made, let alone be in a scene of a Spielberg movie. So yeah,
Crazy
that was
how
really cool.
crazy how life works out, man, when you get opportunities like that. It's just so wild. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to a convention soon, and the voice actor for Squidward, Roger Bumpus, is going to be there. And
Oh, really?
yeah, and so I might get to be the like his panel like dude, like the guy who announces him up on the panel and everything, and like take
Oh, that is
questions and
awesome.
stuff. And just like thinking about how like years ago, like I grew up watching SpongeBob, and how I just like never would have dreamed to be like announcing him on stage, like
That is
Squidward. Like that's just crazy how opportunities just arise like that, man.
Oh yeah. And was my SpongeBob video the one that where you became aware of my stuff?
I
I think
think
it
I
might have
think
been.
so. Yeah, like I want to say that was the first thing I got in my feed of yours.
Because then when I saw your videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, if you would have worked on that Employee of the Month, you could have done all the voices for
Oh,
the
dude,
game.
I would have loved it, dude. I would have totally done it too, man.
Yeah,
I would have
so good.
voiced all the innuendos that they snuck in.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
You
really
really want to
cool.
listen to his voice for 2 hours over and over again?
Well, either way, I would have been listening to someone's one.
That's true.
Jeez. So,
Man.
I wanted to say you were on Malcolm in the Middle. Like we just rewatched
Yes.
Malcolm in the Middle. I want to say not that long ago. It's been a little bit, but
Yeah.
not that long ago. I wanted to start rewatching again because one of our favorites. We absolutely love that show. And I remember watching it and being like, "Oh man, there he is!" Like I would spot you and be like, "There he is, right there!" Like I know that guy.
Yeah, and I worked it, I think 3 or 4 times, but I know which episode you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
the traffic jam episode, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Peeps, commercial Peeps.
yeah.
Yeah, because that one, that was only like my third paid job, because I had done Third Rock, and then I did some Fox TV channel promo,
Okay.
and it was outside, and I have very fair skin, and they didn't have any sunscreen for us, and I didn't know we were going to be outside all day,
Oh man.
and I got really, really sunburned. It was supposed to be all week, but
Oh,
I could barely drive home. And I got home, and I got sick, and my
Ugh.
feet were like all puffed up. And
Oh.
eventually I had to call in sick for the rest of the week, but then I was still sick a week later. I couldn't walk.
Jeez.
And so I called my parents, like, well, what do I do? What should I do? My feet are purple. Like, go to, I didn't have any insurance at the time.
Jeez.
And they're like, go to the school and talk to the nurse.
Mhm.
So I went there and like, go to the emergency room. Well, it turns out I had 2nd degree, borderline 3rd degree
Jeez.
sunburn. So I was out of work
Wow.
for an entire
shit.
month.
Man.
And so that was my first job back, was that Malcolm in the Middle episode.
I'd say
And it was unlike any of the extra stuff I did, because they treated us like we were part of the
great.
cast.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're gonna do that. You're gonna be saying stuff during the scene, and yeah, it was really interactive, and I was making faces, and they didn't seem to mind that. So I
cool.
just kept making faces, and
Yeah. Like,
usually you don't want to draw attention to yourself in the background, but
Yeah,
they wanted it.
was there any like of the main cast on set that day that you were there, other than like maybe his brother?
Masterson.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Masterson brother was there, but nobody. Not that day. All the other days there were, like,
Mhm.
like Bryan Cranston
Yeah.
and Frankie Muniz.
Oh,
There was a casino episode, which
I do
I can't remember if I made it
remember
into
that.
that one, but yeah, I worked that, and that's where I saw all of them.
Okay.
And I remember I was like fake playing slots next to the what's the littlest Dewey, I think.
Yeah,
Is that the
Dewey.
littlest one?
Dewey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing around with the slots, and I
Huh.
was just sitting there.
I'll have to rewatch it and see if you're there.
Yeah, see if you can see me in
I'll
that
let
one.
you know.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, that was cool because at the time I was a fan of the show, specifically of Bryan Cranston, because
Mhm.
I mean, if you watch, I mean, he's so goofy on that
Oh,
show.
yeah.
He's really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why I started watching Breaking Bad, because I just
Mhm.
remember him from being this funny guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, that show ended up being my favorite show of all time for
Oh
a
yeah.
completely different
Oh,
reason. I
yeah.
mean, he's amazing.
Well, even on Breaking Bad, he's funny, which is
Mhm.
surprising.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he is funny. Yeah, for sure.
It was
Because like
hard-
even in the serious moments, like all the times, like Breaking Bad
Mhm.
does such a good job of like having these serious characters making mistakes. Like, you know, they made sure to include all of these troubling times for them where they're just making human errors.
Mhm.
You know, and
Right.
Bryan Cranston was great in those scenes where, you know, he thinks everything's going well, and then something happens where he just messes up,
Mhm.
something breaks. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, he's great in those
Yeah.
spots.
He was hard for
Yeah,
me to
awesome.
see in Breaking Bad as like that serious guy, because I known him from Seinfeld, and I known him from, of course, Malcolm in the
Yes.
Middle,
Yeah.
more than anything. So that was what I knew him as, like before I started watching Breaking Bad, and it was hard to see him in that role. It's like Jim Carrey when he did that one horror movie or the thriller.
Oh, number 23.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just so odd and out of character for him to it was just hard to get it down.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be directed by Brian for some. He does these did these videos about abducting kids.
Mhm.
And like it was like a parent, like I think it was Kid Smart, something like that.
Mhm.
And so he was directing this video, and it was a small shoot. There were like 5 or 6 of us extras.
Wow.
And so we were at this furniture store in downtown LA, and it was just, a couple of us extras, and then Bryan Cranston telling us what to do. We're doing
That's
crosses
cool.
and stuff. But it was so cool to be directed, but like personally directed by him what to do
That's awesome.
after being such a fan of his on Malcolm in the Middle. Breaking Bad hadn't come out at that point, but
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good to hear.
Free
Good to
Heisenberg.
hear that Free Heisenberg. Yeah, it's good to hear that you got some like one-on-one time with fucking Bryan Cranston. That's legendary.
That was pretty
really
cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any projects coming up? Like, do you have any plans for the future on movies? Or games?
No. So what I do, like I've been, like I would love to. I apply for stuff. I submit my headshot for stuff because I mostly was doing like, well, what I thought I could have done out there was more commercial stuff, like selling stuff. That's what the agents told me. But yeah, that's what I've been submitting my headshot, trying to get anything. It's a little harder here. I'm in Iowa now, so I mean, if I was out in California, I'm sure I could have gotten something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have anything going on acting wise, but I'm always looking.
Very good.
I know I kind of jumping around a bit, but like just like 1 or 2 more things that popped in my head.
Yeah.
Like, what was the last game that you worked on, do you think? Do you
The last
remember?
game? What was it? I think it was Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods 2006.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I worked that at EA, and then they were going to put me on. I think they were going to put me on a Sims game, but then I just ended up leaving for something else, for a regular job, because I was
Okay.
bouncing from thing from
Yeah.
here to there. But Tiger Woods that's one I started and finished, and that was one of the only games at EA that I started and finished. And I saw that game in a really, really rough state. Do any of you remember that game at all? Like with Game
Yeah.
Breaker and
Yeah, I remember a lot of the Tiger Woods games around that time just because my buddies like stepdad had a lot of the games and we would play them because like we would have nothing else to play. So
oh yeah.
so we would play Tiger Woods games a lot over at his house.
Yeah, the customization was
Mhm.
top notch, but
Oh, yeah.
I remember the one thing was they had this new thing called Game Breaker where you would build it up and then you could hit the Game Breaker button and then it would help finesse your shot.
Oh,
Well, at one
yeah,
point,
yeah.
it was like an automatic
Automatic
an automatic hole in
Yeah.
one. So I remember the one time, the one guy, he hit it over the green and it went in the water. And then you wait a second, then you saw the ball roll up out of the water, and then into the hole. So it was
Wow.
just completely unrealistic at one
hilarious.
point.
That's hilarious.
It's a game
mean,
breaker. So.
Tiger is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't lose. Yeah. It's his game.
Yeah. I never did get to see Tiger Woods in that whole time that we were testing it.
Oh yeah.
No.
I'd say
He
he's
never
not-
came into the offices.
Never came. Well, he might have come to EA, but I never got to see him. He
I'd
didn't.
say the most he probably did was like face scans or something, like, and I'd say they probably reused those, if anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
depending on-
EA was kind of a fun place to work because it was funny. You're spending all day with a video game,
Yeah.
and then you take your breaks and you go downstairs and you play more video games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had like a pinball machine. They had a stand-up arcade, and
That's awesome. Yeah.
they had a Pac-Man machine. So yeah, we were always either playing games or testing games.
Yeah. That's cool.
No.